interview guest today is Celeste Innocenti, who is the artistic director of Kronos Theater Group. Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Let's just dig into these fascinating Commedia dell'arte characters. We saw some of your troupe doing one of these wonderful
Lazzi.
Lazzi, yes. I was wondering whether I should use the word or not, but that is correct. A little scene that is traditional of the Commedia troupe. Who were some of these characters and how are they distinguished from each other through the wonderful costumes that, by the way, you made, which I think is really terrific. So we have Pagliacci. Let's talk about him first, since the opera is about the same character.
Yeah, there's Pagliacci, and let me also point out too that there are characters that are masked traditionally and characters that are not masked. And Pagliacci is one of the characters that has white face. It's the original white-faced clown. But Pagliacci comes from an older character, Pedrolino. It's very hard to kind of separate some of these characters who'd be the youngest son who'd sleep with the animals in the straw and hay, Palio. And he is, so Pagliacci sort of emerged from this. He's sort of a chickeny, sort of feeble character. There's also a kind of a crossover with Pulcinella, which is a southern character. I think the hat comes from a sugar baker's hat. And so, and again, the white face represents the sort of the straw that he'd be sleeping in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the white face because it's so striking. And of course, in every production of Pagliacci, that's the, he's dressed in the traditional garb of the character in that play within a play that happens in the second half of the opera. But as you say, in the tradition of Commedia, he's a rather introverted character?
He is. He would never. Oh my goodness, Colombina, who's the soubrette, she's the clever servant. She's Tuscan. These are, again, regional stereotypes too. So Colombina is always the clever servant. Colombina always wins. She's kind of the Bugs Bunny. You could think of it that way. And she's not masked. The women were not masked. They would probably be singers and dancers. Now, Colombina is featured with her basket and her tambourine, which is actually an ancient fertility symbol of spreading the seeds. In this case, we didn't have a tambourine. But the other thing about Colombina is, and again, lots of things are mingled together, not just the costume, but even she's always in first position ballet or this, that kind of thing. So there are lots of specifics about these characters, but everybody in Italy would have recognized the regional stereotypes. She would have been escaping from Pantalone, usually, who's the Venetian sort of Mr. Moneybags, who has the wife or daughter.
I have to say, I'm sorry that Leoncavallo didn't include some of these other stock characters because I love Dottore and Pantalone.
But for a reason, clearly, Leoncavallo made his choices, and by marrying the clever Colombina who always wins to the poor, feeble Pagliacci, the pathos is just amped up.
What about Arlecchino?
Now, Arlecchino is a very ancient character, and he's one of the Zanni, which we get the word zany.
The word zany,
from that. And there's actually a theory, well, first of all, it probably stems way before the Greeks, because the Greeks had the masked comedy as well as the tragedy. They probably stole it from the Egyptians, who knows? It's just very ancient. But there is a theory that from Bergamo, where he's supposed to be from, that there may have been an African servant, because the Zanni usually had black or dark masks. And there's also, Arlecchino has a kind of a boil and a certain look to him that's always stereotype and always stereotypical and always traditional. But he's, the stereotype about Arlecchino with his patchwork suit, my theory about the patches is it's very stretchy. If you have these diamond-shaped patches, then Arlecchino is always the acrobat.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the changes that Leoncavallo has made, because as you made the point that Colombina is the person that always wins, that Pagliacci is the one who's always sort of quiet and introverted and shy. Yeah. They're completely different in this opera, aren't they?
Very true. And the interesting thing is, being the late 19th century, by that time, Commedia dell'arte had pretty much died out around Italy, and especially to the sophisticated audiences, this would have been a very rural kind of art form. And so there was kind of this French influence where it became Pierrot and Pierrette, and so lovely, and this and that. So, a lot of the obscenity, a lot of sort of the very rustic charm and humor. And really, Commedia dell'arte was just a snake oil sales tool. Basically, they would go from town to town, trying to sell these magic potions.
So this would not have been something that Leoncavallo would have been particularly
Well, he would have
informed
known.
about.
Yes, of course
Yeah?
he would have, because he was from southern Italy, and he certainly would have seen many travel. And in fact, the entire incident was based on a Commedia dell'arte troupe that came to town.
Then I wonder if perhaps he
very
decided
rural.
to take these stock characters and switch them in a way so that Colombina is the one who loses, Pagliacci is the one who suddenly, this horrible, this violent beast comes out of him that has never shown its face before.
Although he does say in the opera, "Am I a Pulcinella?" which is a southern version of this that became Punch, Punch and Judy, and he is a nasty character that beat his wife
With
and
the
this
cudgel.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So but he also was dressed in white. So there's a lot of merging of these characters, and it's very hard to say why his choices were. But I think by choosing Pagliacci, the audience's sympathies become so definitely, the element of pathos is added.
That is a great take, I think, on the character of Pagliacci. I will talk to the singer who sings the role of Camillo, who is Pagliacci, and see where we can go with that, because then that's a really sort of interesting way of looking at this play within a play that ends the opera so brutally. Thank you very much, Celeste, for being
Thank you
with
so much, Nick. I really appreciate being here.
me. Great.
La gente